When a strange planet-sized object hurtles towards Earth, causing massive worldwide disruptions, the United Democracies Space Command fights back with sciencey jargon, jutted jaws, and clenched teeth in the 1966 Italian sci-fi action film War Between the Planets. And that's the movie we'll be watching this week on Movie Bones. There's a special place in my heart, Ryan, for movies that think they have the gravitas to seriously pull off lines, well, kind of like this.
Look at that burst of gas. How could something like that be up here without our knowing it?
What's new, Helium Head?
Stand by for weight gain.
Stand by for weight gain. That one's my favorite of all those, but you see what I mean. It's the kind of undeserved confidence I have to admire in a movie like this. You see, you could get actors like Laurence Olivier, Marlon Brando, and Sidney Poitier combined, acting at the peak of their powers, and they'd cower before copy like that. But this movie, by golly, says, put those words into the mouths of this low-budget B-movie cast, because we're making some serious art here, and I haven't even gotten to the hilarious zero-G effects yet. So I'm going to keep it real simple, folks. The plot is basically big other planet bad on collision course with Earth, and we're going to go blow up the big bad planet. And that's pretty much it. Along the way, there's kind of a love triangle between three of the characters that just kind of doesn't go anywhere. But that's all this movie really deserves to describe it, don't you think, Ryan?
Oh, that's absolutely correct.
Probably giving it too much credit, actually.
Yeah, likely.
Cheese is going to be the main part of this review today, folks. So I have so many, but where would you like to start? What is some of your favorite, what made you laugh in this movie the most? I have to ask.
The thing that made me laugh the most, and I felt bad about it because I saw they were actually, in this particular scene, it looked like they were doing their best to actually make it look correct. There's they're in space, quote unquote space. They're in space, and they fire up the rocket engines for all of these different spaceships. And when they fire up the rocket engines for all these different spaceships, the screen that's behind is so clearly visible, you could see a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's all the miniatures they do. It looks like someone's, maybe they're like a talented 8th grader. They, in their spare time, they put together this huge diorama, in the garage. And that's, but they're really good at it, but it's still, he's limited, right, to what they got, and that's what this looks like. So you can see clearly the miniature nature of everything on board here, of everything we're working with. And the next thing is, of course, is that they turn around after this horrifying thing, which if it was done well, it would look like something, if we know what buildings sadly look like when they fall down. I mean, think of 9/11 and stuff like that. But you're supposed to be terrified by this and really shocked to your core. You don't just go from that to doing what these characters do, which is kind of they start going about being professional and businesslike and stoic beyond reason. You know what I'm saying? And that's not even a complaint, because that's actually funny. It's the funniness of discontinuity of expectation and reality. And there's a million things like that in this movie, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do like what you had to say about the whole how they react to things. Kind of reminds me of a meme, like the "oh no, anyway" meme. Go look it up, folks. It's there's a lot of different "oh no, anyways," but it's just something bad happens to you, and then you just move on completely, just without caring about anything.
Yeah.
And that kind of, because they don't care, obviously that means that we're not going to care. This movie's all over the place. And
it is.
And that's not to say it wasn't a fun ride.
Oh, no, there's plenty of fun stuff here. It's as some of you guys heard just in the early part of the show here, is I played back. It's I love hearing someone say, it's prepare for weight gain. Now, it had to be something lost in translation there. This is dubbed, clearly dubbed, although I think they still did a relatively good job at it. The zero-G effects that they do for the actors, it's what's the one thing you think of when someone's doing zero-G badly? It's oh, look at the wires, right? But here it's not just the wires you can see. It's actually the harness clips. It's no, I went to Cirque du Soleil and they dressed up like astronauts.
There was at one point when I was watching this movie that I was sitting there thinking to myself, this is an artistic choice. And the reason why I think that is because when they're in space and everything and they're like connected to one another, I think you're supposed to think that they're connected to the spaceship and everything, which does make a little bit of sense, but still it was just so stinking obvious.
Oh yeah. But they use it for the same, I mean, they haven't heard of, did they not have airlocks yet or not hear of airlocks? Was that, I guess it wasn't a concept yet in the 60s perhaps. But I thought movies even before then, I have a recollection of some kind of airlock type things going on, even in films going pretty far back.
Looks like there's no time to waste.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Have you seen Airplane, by the way?
It has been a while, but yes, I've seen it.
Yeah. So, and the guy that Lloyd Bridges plays in that movie, I think he was actually going for the very kind of, it's like he had studied movies like the one we watched. And that's exactly the kind of person he's like lampooning in that kind of performance. It's like that was the inspiration. Stuff like that is the inspiration for stuff in Airplane.
But see, don't you think that movies, like, I understand that without movies like this, we don't get movies like Airplane.
Oh, no.
But movies like this should be movies like Airplane. You get what I'm saying? I don't like to take away if an artist is trying to be serious. I don't like to down them too much for it. But if you can go back and look at your dialogue and look at how your movie's filmed and know what you kind of have to be for your budget movie, turn it into an Airplane-like movie. It's okay to make fun of yourself.
My wife writes some just kind of like personal stories, just mostly for her own, on her own. But she used to try to like get to do drama, but she always struggled with that. We had a long conversation about it, and it's like, actually, I think what your work leans towards, where your strength is actually in satire. It's in this kind of farce. And if you are able to internalize that, it's like, and then when she writes farce, she just comes out naturally. So it's like, yeah, I wish almost like people like this, people who make these movies was like, maybe actually I should lean into farce because the drama thing ain't working out. Maybe it's just lean into what I got, Actually, I wish people would do more movies like Airplane. We've had a lack of them for quite a while now.
It's such a good thing. We need satire to come back. But, a lot of people don't like this. I'm not going to get off into the weeds of this, but a lot of people don't do satire now because a lot of people, I think, fear that satire is, people think that satire is the truth.
I know with news getting crazier and crazier, it makes it harder to parody, I guess.
Yeah.
Everyone was wearing girdles. Do you notice that?
Yes, everyone was wearing girdles. Everyone was wearing the same colored like suits. It felt like everyone had a weird hairstyle, even for the time period.
Yeah.
At one point before we were recording this, we were talking about the vehicles that they were driving around at the very beginning. Justin looked at them like they were toy cars, which they do look like toy cars.
Yeah.
I'll say this: when I was looking at them, like when I first saw them, I was like, my first thought, because go look at those vehicles again when you get a chance and then take the wheels off of them. And I was like, those are just the Jetson cars.
It is actually. But I think lights. I have to go back and check. But even the Jetsons, as silly and dumb as they could be, still remember to put headlights on their cars.
What year was this movie?
It's in 1966, I believe.
The Jets. When's this movie come out?
1966.
Oh my gosh, yes, 100%. This show starts coming around 1962.
Okay, so it actually had been around for a bit, and
yeah,
so someone
they absolutely knocked off those vehicles.
Oh goodness sakes, man! I didn't think of it at the time, but you're absolutely thinking about it now. It's like you're absolutely right. Meet George Jetson.
The only thing they probably could figure out how to do is make those things fly.
When you mentioned the hair, it made me think because it's like, if you look at just the cast that's male, it's like half of that part of the cast donated their hair to the other half.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did they donate their hair, but then they must have sprayed it on with they made it like concrete because that stuff does not move the entire. I mean, they put helmets on. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And not once did I see a hair on their head get damaged by anything, or touched. Did you catch the line where they talk about the composition of the planet?
That threw me out of the movie so much. I really believe when they did the English dub, there was something wrong. Like, maybe they didn't get all the footage. I don't know. But, like, when the narrator showed up just to give exposition, I'm like, there's something to this. Like, you just don't do that.
Well, I think the original Italian version is out there on the Internet Archive. That would actually be something worth checking out if they had the narrator in Italian, doing an Italian narration of it. But one of the things that struck me about the narrator, at least toward the end, is that he described this planet that's threatening Earth, calls it composed of a cold gluten or jelly. I'm like, that's an odd comparison. I mean, so not a mission for the gluten intolerant, I suppose. This film was like one of 4 films, I think, as part of a set of films, almost kind of like halfway between like a TV series and a film series. It's called the Gamma 1 series. The others are Wild Wild Planet, War of the Planets, which is really confusing when you think of this movie's title. Another one called Snow Devils. I haven't tried to find all these, but I tried to find at least one other one. This is the only one I've been able to find reliably, except unless you want to buy it on DVD or something. Yeah, it's like, but they did have a trailer for one of the other ones, and that one looks even more like out there and as crazier than this one. It seems like the acting in that one was even more intense. And these guys were doing intense pretty hard, weren't they?
Yes, they were. This movie took itself seriously.
Yeah. It was that kind of, it's like where acting is conflated with grit your teeth harder. Grit your teeth harder, man. Harder. And get that lantern jaw.
Sergeant, this can't be correct. According to your T of E, you've got antimatter bomb packs on this cruiser.
Some people criticize Star Trek for being too much into the technobabble, but that right there takes some kind of cake. It's like, I don't care what Star Trek said. I don't remember them ever saying anything quite as laugh-inducing as that.
What? You don't think T of E with...
Do I think bomb packs and T of E is like... Oh, like if
antimatter bomb packs.
Antimatter bomb packs. Maybe it's the salesmanship. I don't know. Star Trek did manage to sell it pretty well, at least while you're watching Star Trek, you don't think about it too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's because, like, not all of their science, but I think some of their science has, been a little bit checked. Clearly in this movie, none of the science was checked.
No,
it's just like, we're throwing down words, and it's like, does this sound right? Sure.
Sounds good to me, Hey, it sounds good to me, Bob. Just put it in.
And, you always wonder, like, how do the actors react to that? Like, are they cool with it, or do they look back on it and go, what am I reading?
Well, it's like a part of you just has to not care, I guess, but just care enough.
Hey, you get a paycheck.
All right. So, despite a few dull patches, and there's no film in a B-movie world that doesn't have at least a few of those, this movie is pretty gloriously bad, but the kind of which I will watch again and again because cheesy goodness. And if you're into these movies, this one, I would say, comes pretty highly rated. It's a nuke the fridge and a trust me. So I guess trust the fridge is the best I would say. That sounds good. We'll go with trust the fridge. How about you, man?
Yeah. You know what? I'm definitely nuke the fridge here. Because again, it's just, it's not a very long movie. It's about an hour and like 17 minutes long. So, you should go sit down and watch this movie and just watch it for the glorious badness that it is as they try to do their best to take themselves seriously. I always appreciate sci-fi for what it is because, sci-fi is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like, I'll give them their due here. Sci-fi is difficult to do. Because, especially without the technology to do sci-fi, which they didn't have the technology to do sci-fi, but they're trying to make a sci-fi movie. It's the dialogue. It's not necessarily the premise. It's the dialogue. It's some of the plot points. But it's an interesting subject of what are you going to do if what is basically a living planet is just hurling towards you? How do you deal with that? But it's, just everything else is just so gloriously bad. Some of it feels like you're doing what you can do to the best of your abilities. And some of it is like you clearly didn't get back into the writer's room and look at any of this stuff. No. But it all makes it for a stupidly fun ride. Yeah. And that's why it's nuking the fridge, because nuking the fridge is a stupidly fun ride.
Oh, yeah. Half the time in this movie, I was thinking to myself, This is the story that was going on in my head when I was playing with action figures as a kid.
Yeah.
This is the story. This is what I came up with. The dialogue, the scenarios, everything. If you ever did that as a kid, this movie will take you back there. So that's what my daydreams would look like if someone actually if actually decided to make it on a very low budget and almost no script, And if you feel like it, add it to your collection. I think it's going to be added to mine for sure. So now's the time when we'd like to remind the listening audience out there that if you're having fun watching these movies alongside us and hearing our reactions, please do like, subscribe, comment, and of course, follow us on your podcast purveyor of choice. Tell us what you think we got wrong, and maybe nominate some films you'd like to see us do, if they're available for free on Tubi or Internet Archive, that is. And on that note, Ryan, what do we have for next week's film?
You people aren't going to believe this. This movie, and there is a connection. I'm going to explain it to you when we meet together again. But this movie is about family. It's about fast vehicles. It's about crime. Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. That's the wrong franchise. No, this movie is actually titled The Fast and the Furious, but it's not what you think it is.
No.
And also at the same time, it is exactly what you think it might be.
Oh, I don't know what to expect with this one. I have not seen this before, and to be honest with you, I haven't even seen the Fast and the Furious films of the modern era. So this would be my very first. Can you imagine that, folks? This is my very first Fast and the Furious film.
If you ever decided to do a podcast on doing this stuff, but like early 2000s to now, you would eat this up. You need to watch the Fast and the Furious movies. You would eat it up. Besides some of the, there's some things that aren't really kind of good about those movies, but like the overall cheesiness of it, yeah, that's like the later movies, definitely.
I've heard they get pretty ridiculous.
There's no reason they haven't gone to space and met aliens yet.
They did that with the Friday the 13th series of films.
Yeah.
After a while, they did like Jason Goes to Space.
The Fast and the Furious movies, the ones that we know about, they start out being mostly about stealing, a group of people who are stealing DVDs, which is the wildest thing. And they go from like racing fast cars, stealing DVDs, all the way to quite literally, I do think they actually go to space, but it's like only like upper atmosphere. But I mean, it's just like it's just the craziest stuff. And the movies knows what they're doing. You know what we're talking about earlier in this segment? Or these movies understood their audience. They understand their audience. They understand what they're all about. And so they do exactly what we talked about earlier, like just be that. It's not satire, but it owns what it is. Yeah. And that's what I love about those movies, is it just winds up owning what it is. And that just makes it all the more fun to watch. Now, I haven't seen them all myself, but yeah, they're all just super fun to watch.
Awesome. Well, like I said, this will be my introductory episode into the Fast and the Furious. I'm probably the only person on the planet that can have that claim to fame at this point. Oh, man. Well, I guess that's all we got, folks. But we'll see you next week. And Ryan, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye-bye.